Today we're going to prep the servo bays and get the servos installed, get the wires laid out. I absolutely love this plane. I cannot wait to show you how well it flies. But till we get it built, can't really do that. So let's get after it. Okay, before we mount the elevator servos, we need to just go in and just put a single drop of CA glue in each of the holes. My next step is just dropping the servo down inside the bay. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt. There is a notch for the servo wire. So we're just gonna work it down in with the notch or the servo wire side towards the notch. Getting it to pass that first rib is it's a chore. Once you get it past the first rib, line the servo up at an angle and drop your wire down through into the area where the groove is at. Once you've cleared the groove and your wire is in place, you can start working it down. Make sure your wire is clearing, and then just hold the one ear and get your servo lined up. Make sure that sits down in there tightly, and then just go ahead and add your screws. Using a driver with flex cord and a set of tweezers, I just line up my servos, screw everything down in, get them all snug. Then we move to the ailerons. Now when I lay out the ailerons, what I am doing is making sure that I have correct extension length, using the 2 JRs going into a multiplex. I lay everything out. I use a servo tester to make sure that everything is working, and I can identify the inside servo and the outside servo. I write everything down, get everything marked, then I put everything together, add my shrink wrap, just do a quick double test to make sure that the servo is correctly mounted, and then I just shrink it down. Once I finish the servo to the extension, now I go the extension going into the multiplex connector. I do the exact same thing. I double check everything, make sure it's working, everything's lined up, then I go ahead and shrink it down. Then I feed the servo wire from the outboard servo to the inboard servo, and I pull that through. At that point, I can put my inboard servo in, double check it, make sure everything's good, add my shrink wrap, shrink it down, then I put the multiplex connector back down in the bay, pull it through the root of the wing, through the grommet, and my inside servo is done. I add CA glue to each of the mounts and get everything screwed down tight. Do the same thing with the next aileron. So now both ailerons are put together and shrunk. Use your iron and set the glue where the multiplex connector is. There's one on each side. Go ahead and cut that area out. Now you don't have to have a multiplex connector. You can run just regular servo wire, 2 servo wires through it. I like the multiplex connector. It makes everything easy. It's a quick connect. Since I have the wings out, what I like to do is just throw the push rods and the horns on, get the length set so everything's kind of lined up. I tape everything together, and then I just set it to the side, and then I'll come back when it's time to program my throws. All right, so your next steps, what you want to do is just heat an iron up to somewhere between 220, 235 degrees. What that's going to do at 212 degrees activates the glue. So we want to activate that glue and just kind of shrink it down just a little bit. And then right here you can see I've got an area that I'm going to cut out for those servos, the servo wires to go through. Once we cut this out, you're going to see that there is string behind the area that's cut out. We want to make sure we don't pull that out. That string is what we're going to use to drag the servo wire back through the tube from the elevators and rudder to the center section in the belly where the receiver will be. We're going to repeat this process for the servo bays for the rudder. Now, I'll heat everything up, get it nice and warm. You can see here using a light where those servo bays are. Now stay tuned to the very end and you can find out how I screwed up. But in the meantime, this is how I like to cut my servo bays. So I just throw a light in there, pop a couple of holes, run a ruler across, and make those cuts. Then I take my sealing iron, I just go in, heat that up, and form it all the way around and make it a nice, clean, tight fit for the servos, and it always stays tight together and it looks really good over years of flying. Now with this bay, you can see that there was a small area that is cut out where the servo wire goes. I just do 2 small cuts, seal that down, and press it in with the iron. Repeat the process on the other side, and then you're good to go. So I've got these marked. These are my rudder servos. I've got rudder right and rudder left. Then I have my elevator servos, left, right. Having them color coded just makes it easy when I lay things out. You can tie or tape your wires and then just pull them through the tube that comes up into the center section of the fuselage, and you can see it's a very clean, simple installation. Now you're ready to put your receiver in. You know, sometimes our mistakes can be maddening. I'll show you what I did here. So my goal was to put 2 servos, shorten the push rods as much as possible, and have 2 servos running to the rudder. Well, what happens is when this servo goes in, it doesn't mount all the way down because the other servo, when they go back to back, it's too tall. So it's sticking out, you know, this far from the fuselage. So I had to move it forward. But what do I do with the hole that I have here? I could just put a piece of ultra coat and go across right there, and that will work. But when you're using a gas engine, what happens is the fuel blows and it gets back here, and so that starts peeling up and it creates a problem. So what I did is I took a small piece of ultralight ply, and then I took a piece of balsa wood and I created a little cover. Everything is folded around it, and that will make it so that when the exhaust comes back, the oil won't get in here and pull everything back. It'll just have it nice and clean and tight. So I'm just going to put a layer of medium through here. I drop that down in there, let it cure. I'll do the same thing on the other side. Problem is solved. In the next video, we're going to mount the engine, cut the cowl, and get the throttle servo set up. If you appreciate what I'm doing, please like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to my channel, and until next time, happy landings.